The Baltimore Ravens used a non-exclusive franchise tag on star quarterback Lamar Jackson. How does that impact their draft plans? We'll discuss it next on the Locked On NFL Draft podcast.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We thank you for making us your first listen of the day. I'm your host, Damian Parson. You can find me on Twitter at DP_NFL. I'm on the ones and twos every episode. I'm a national scout for the Draft Network, as well as your local and favorite running back guru. And as always, championship talk always resides here with my guy, Keith. Talk to him, baby.
Man, what's up? What's up, man? This is Keith Sanchez, senior draft analyst at the Draft Network, man. And like my guy DP always cues me up every single day, man. 2019 national champion, yes, for those LSU Tigers, greatest college football team ever assembled, in my opinion, man. But you know why we're here? Me, myself, Damian Parsons. We're here to bring you championship level talk. When it comes to the NFL draft, we're talking perspective, we're talking prospects, we're talking about draft philosophies. And guess what? This episode today, we're talking about Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens, right? But from a different perspective when it comes to team building, roster management, and also those draft picks. So DP, I want to get this thing kicked off, man, because with the non-exclusive tag, right, you're talking about a signing sheet, you're talking about an offer sheet from another team, right? And then you're also talking about the possibility of getting 2 first-round draft picks. So I want to ask you, DP, what, in your opinion, is the value of 2 first-round draft picks? Whether you're acquiring them or whether you're giving them up.
I mean, it's important, right? Like there's value to have 2 first-round picks, especially in the NFL draft. It's not like the NBA where the talent is like lottery picks driven, that top 5 to 7. In the NFL draft, it's 32 picks, and you're gonna have a lot of talent on the board. So there's a lot of value there, especially if you're a team that's acquiring them, right? Now, the team that's giving them up, depends on what you're giving them up for. There's value in that too. But I think I can't remember who said it, but the quote was, you're not going to replace an all-pro talent with a rookie. So it's like you got to be more calculated and careful, Keith, by overvaluing the draft picks. Because we've seen matter of fact, you go back to the year the Miami Dolphins drafted Tua. They had 3 first-round picks, Keith. They had three first-round picks. They picked.
Damn, I'm trying to remember who the other guys. I believe was that Jalen Phillips.
No, it was. If I remember correctly, it was Tua, Austin Jackson, and Noah Igbinoghene, the slot corner, I think from Auburn or something like that. Yeah, those last 2 picks didn't really turn out too well for them, Keith. Like those last 2 picks.
Tua is a question mark at this point, right? They could have went over.
They might be over 3.
And then listen, right? You look at the Raiders, right? The Raiders, how many draft picks did they blow through? That was probably 4.
They had 3. They had 3.
They had 3 first rounders.
Josh Jacobs and the safety who doesn't really play safety.
Jonathan Abrams, was it called?
Yes, yeah, Jonathan Abrams.
Yeah, then they had, there's another draft for Cleveland Farrell, right? Then they had the draft with the offensive lineman, I believe, that they took from, was it Bama that year? They took
yeah.
So, the Raiders have did a great job of making our point, man. You combine the Raiders and the Dolphins, and listen, man, they've made a great job. My point, and that was my point, because as soon as the reports came out, it was like time, like team after team after team after team said, almost we're not interested, right? And it was teams that need quarterbacks, right? It wasn't like we're talking about the Chargers. They were like, nah, we're not interested in Lamar Jackson. That's like a dull moment. But if you're talking about the Carolina Panthers, you're talking about the Las Vegas Raiders at this point. You're talking about, potentially the Atlanta Falcons. I know they have Desmond Ridder, but, you're talking about an upgrade. So I'm like, okay, what outside of the collusion thing, because I know that's a hot topic, but we can't assume here, right? But what we can talk about is the draft picks part. And so the 2 first rounders is one of those things. I'm like, okay, how valuable are those first rounders, right? And do teams just simply overvalue them? So I went back, DP, and I looked at I didn't even do the 2022 draft. So I didn't even do the rookies, right? Because you want to give them time. So I did the 2020 and the 2021 draft, and I'm looking at them, and I mean, it's a 50% hit rate, right? Like the Vikings. I mean,
Mhm.
you draft Justin Jefferson, but then you also draft Jeff Gladney, right? So that's 50%. And that was for a lot of teams, man. The Tennessee Titans were another team. I think they went 0 for 2 over the past 2 years as far as impactful rookies, or even second and third year players now. So
Yeah.
I'm looking at
The
it from here.
Arizona Cardinals is batting 0 for 1,000.
Yeah, I,
Like
I
they,
didn't
you
even
know what
want
I
to
mean?
bring them up, man, because that's a tough case study, man. You can loop them in with the Dolphins and the Raiders. So,
Right.
truthfully, man, it's some bad drafting out there. It's bad drafting. So when you have a player like Lamar Jackson, and you have a proven asset in the NFL, I say why not take him? Because the truth is, two first rounders, okay, average DMs, they hit on one and they miss on one, right?
Hmm.
So average wise, and you need to be honest with yourself as a GM. You saying, listen, this is two first round picks, but it's really only one first round pick because one of them I'm gonna get them wrong anyway, right? One of these
Right.
guys, one of these guys that I draft is not going to hit, and I know you don't want to tell yourself that as a general manager, but
You got to be
that
honest.
right. That's the where we live in this world. So I thought it was rather interesting with the Lamar Jackson situation and just all of these teams jumping out.
And Keith, I think even going back to last season, right? Like, remember everybody hated the draft class, but a team like the Denver Broncos gave up 3 first round picks for Russell Wilson, but their team had some other issues that they couldn't address in the draft. Right now, I mean, they clearly aren't much more smarter this year than last because they said the only first round pick they had this year off of that Bradley Chubb trade to the Saints for a coach. So it's like, okay, you're still not making right decisions, but nonetheless, but I think that plays a part in. And I remember listening to I think it was ESPN, and they were talking about how different this would have been if Lamar was an unrestricted free agent and just there's no tag involved, right? To where teams are like, oh, I don't have to give up 2 firsts. Say less. Yeah, Lamar, you can get your money. I'll give you your money. But I can't give you your money and give up 2 first round picks. And I think that Russell Wilson stain is really in the minds of GMs and teams right now. Because it's like, man, they gave up a lot. And then they watched the Seahawks have one of the best drafts in the draft last year. And they used all those picks from Denver to bolster their team so Geno Smith could play better. So I think that plays a part, man. And like I said, at the end of the day, if you're the Ravens, you got to ask yourself, are these 2 picks, like you said, you're going to miss on one, you're going to hit on one. The one you hit on, is he going to be more impactful for your team than a guy that has been the MVP, a guy that's helped you get to the playoff, guy who has engineered and been the engine of your team? Without you doing your best to give him the best weapons, you kept a lackluster OC. Your strength and conditioning coach was god awful, and players are calling them out, left and right on social media last week. Like, you didn't do your part. So, like, is one of these picks going to be as impactful in their career with you as Lamar Jackson has? I'm gonna be honest, no.
So DP, you presented the question, right? One of these picks is going to be more impactful, but what if they pair these picks to get another quarterback, right? What if they find opportunity to get another quarterback? So coming up next, we're going to look at quarterbacks just in case Lamar Jackson moves on and the Ravens decide to jump into the quarterback sweepstakes. We're going to look at the Baltimore Ravens from a quarterback perspective, and we're going to make a decision on who we feel will be the best fit in this 2023 quarterback draft cycle to kind of replace Lamar Jackson moving forward.
This episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of the NFL and the NBA. When you talk about being part of FanDuel, if you're a new customer to it, get excited and be happy because you can get a no sweat first bet up to $1,000 as bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. You can bet on everything from money line, player props, point scores, all of it. Guys, all you got to do is download FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, it's super easy to use. You can also pair together, some of your bets for a same game parlay, a chance for a bigger payout. So don't miss the chance to get your no sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to fanduel.com/locked on. That's fanduel.com/locked on to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel. Keith, brother, this Baltimore Ravens situation is very, very interesting because at the end of the day, you said it. What if they traded up to get a quarterback? Well, Keith, I don't know. I'm not really excited about them trading up to get a quarterback. Um, this team, man, it's crazy how the NFL makes things more difficult than it needs to be. Keith, if they were to, if you look at the team needs, right, and what they have, they need a corner, they need receiver. Heck, they got two. They had two running backs come off of ACL. Keith, two. Their top two backs both tore their ACL in the same month, so they were both coming back. J.K. Dobbins still having to have another surgery that kept him out, mid-season week, for about 4 weeks or whatnot. So for you, Keith, looking at this team, what are your thoughts in terms of, okay, should they address their needs, or should they, if they were to get those two picks, should they go up and move and get a quarterback?
Yeah, well, I'm gonna get into the team needs in just a second, but just going in on the quarterbacks, right? The past couple of years, Lamar Jackson had, I believe, it was Greg Roman, the offensive coordinator, same OC that was with Colin Kaepernick, right? But a
And
trend,
Tyrod Taylor.
yeah, and Tyrod Taylor. So a trendy thing is that he understands mobile quarterbacks or running
Mhm.
quarterbacks. I'll say that, right? Like under him, Lamar Jackson won an MVP, right? So
Right.
give him some credit for that. And so I would say this, man, if he was still there, I would be all in on an Anthony Richardson to Baltimore
Mm.
train. I would be
Yep.
all in on him because I think that he would use Anthony Richardson to the best of his ability. You would immediately see these RPOs. You immediately see these triple option, you know what I'm saying, with the slot wide receiver acting as the third option in this read option type situation. You would see really diverse things, right? So I would feel really comfortable with it. But man, without him being there, and then you bring in Todd Monken, right? Todd Monken from the University of Georgia, OC becomes the OC now. And so you don't really know what that's going to look like, right? Because Todd Monken, in the same light, he hasn't had great wide receivers at Georgia, right? And it's been heavy tight ends. So I'm wondering, what is this Baltimore Ravens offense going to look like? And if it's going to look like more of the same, but I don't think they would have replaced Greg Roman to look like more of the same. But what
Right.
does spread look like under Todd Monken, right? Like, what does that look like when you go, 11 personnel, you have three wide receivers on the field. What does that look like? And then the Baltimore Ravens, to be honest, right? They don't have wide receivers. So, like, that's not the strong suit of their team. So, if you ask me, let's just talk about quarterback prospects, man. It's extremely tough. Like I said, Greg Roman, I would have loved to see Anthony Richardson there. But if not, I have to go CJ Stroud. And I'm not sure I really love a fit for Baltimore right now. They're almost one of those teams where, as much, you want to see them get a quarterback. I'm like, I just don't know enough yet to see, like, man, that's a really good quarterback fit.
Keith, I'm gonna tell you straight up, and it may sound crazy to a lot of people. If they were to make this trade to trade Lamar Jackson to a team, and get the 2 first-round picks, right, off the non-exclusive tag, I think I truthfully say this: you punt the heck out of this season in terms of drafting the quarterback. You get yourself up for next year at either Drake May or Caleb Williams. That's what you do, because putting, like, you legitimately, we talk about it, right, with the Texans and some of these, like, teams who are just not good football teams, right? Said, man, you're not ready for a quarterback. Well, I love the defense for the Baltimore Ravens. Absolutely do not like the offense that they have. You know what I'm
Well,
saying, in terms
let's
of the
let's
weapons.
yeah, the weapons part, right? But I guess a key
Mm-hmm.
part of that too is that they have a solid offensive line, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
they have the O line to protect them, and they have a stable of running backs. So that's what because I'm really trying to flush this situation out, right? I'm trying to figure this thing out with the Baltimore Ravens. But like you said, the receivers are there. So their team construction, to me, as far as like how I feel about them getting a quarterback, it's almost the exact opposite of a team like the Houston Texans, right? Where the Texans have a couple wide receivers, Damian Pierce at running back, but the O line struggles, right? So they're the exact opposite of the Houston Texans, where they have
Right.
the offensive line and the running back, they just don't have the wide receivers. So I was kind of looking at it from that position, DP. So if you draft a rookie quarterback, he has an offensive line, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, do you say, okay, I could still draft a rookie quarterback and then move on to, I'll get some, I guess, skill players and possibly the second round, free agency, or even next year? Like, would you be able to buy into that from that perspective?
If this was an organization that has shown the competency to do so, yes, but they have not. You know what
Right.
I mean? Like, you had Lamar Jackson on a rookie deal, and instead of going out there and swinging for DeAndre Hopkins or swinging for any of these other disgruntled wide receivers, where you could have fit them into your cap under this rookie deal, you kept getting tight ends because you had Greg Roman. Now he's gone, of course, but just the decision making in terms of building this offense up from a skill position, it's like I think a CJ Stroud could work here. And like I said, offensive line, the run game would be interesting because without the threat of a mobile quarterback, that makes it a traditional run game where it has looked vastly different when the teams have taken away the quarterback from the run game, and it's hey, all 11 hats are keyed in on the football and not on the legs of a Lamar Jackson coming out of the backfield, right? Where you have to play disciplined football with the RPO. You're not worried about that so much with CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, and these other guys, right? Besides like an Anthony Richardson and maybe a Will Levis. But I think Will Levis could fit here potentially. But it's just like, okay, if we move up, we didn't hurt ourselves in terms of being able to build up build up the offense and the receivers for them, right, Keith? Like I said, unless they are able to, because we all know DeAndre Hopkins, like there's a chance of him, high chance of him being moved from Arizona. Okay, if you get one of these rookies, well, dang, they don't even have a second round pick, Keith. They sent that second round pick to go get Roquan Smith that they give a contract to.
Right.
So they don't got to pick in the second round.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
So it's tough, man. So I think for me, it's just more so I feel like they need a punt. Go ahead, and just use these. If they make the move to trade Lamar Jackson, use these picks. Bring back Tyler Huntley on like a 1-year deal. Use these picks to get the receiving help they need and build this offense complete. And then go get one of these guys next year because you have 2 first rounds next year with yours and whatever team gave you a first round for Lamar Jackson.
Okay, well, there you have it. DP says punt. I said, they may have a glimmer of hope at getting
Pat McAfee this thing, baby. Pat McAfee this thing.
But nah, man. So, man, listen, DP said punt on it, talking about team needs. So that's what we're going to get into next. We're going to get into if the Baltimore Ravens, decide not to take a quarterback, what are some of the positions they should address? And then we're also going to highlight those prospects that we think will fit best defensively and offensively for the Baltimore Ravens for the 2023 NFL season.
Man, Keith, like really thinking about looking at this team, they need corner. They may need another edge. Odafe has not developed into the pass rusher they want. David Ojabo has even like in the one game he played showed more of pass rush repertoire than Odafe. He's only played one game. So they need edge. They're going to need corner. Definitely wide receiver, Keith. So like what players for you stand out of those 3 positions if they were to go in the first round to attack any of those positions?
Yeah, I'm going Quentin Johnston. I don't know where Quentin Johnston is going to go in this draft, right? Like you look at the mocks, you look at the NFL draft community. I know we have our opinion on him. I think this guy's a top 10 player, right? Like I think this is, he's on the edge, right? Like very close to being one of the blue chip prospects in this draft right now. But I would have to say this, man, if he falls, I think the Baltimore Ravens should go get him. Like just flat out go get him. You pair him up with a Rashad Bateman. Now I think you have a solid 1-2 punch. And we have to look at the rest of this. And the reason I say Quentin Johnston and I solo him out is because the rest of this wide receiver class is I don't think it's complementary to what the Ravens need, right? Like there are a lot of receivers that are sub 6 foot, sub 180 pounds, right? And I think the Baltimore Ravens are missing a true dog, right? Like they're missing that XY receiver. I like Bateman as a 2, right? Like
he's got to stay healthy.
Yeah, and he has to stay healthy, man. I think about the Las Vegas Raiders, the Oakland Raiders at the time. And remember, Michael Crabtree's career was kind of up and down, right? But then you paired him with Amari Cooper, and then you've seen some really good play out of Michael Crabtree. And I think it's similar to that, right? I think that there needs to be another dog in the room with Rashad Bateman, because I'm not sure if he's ready to just carry the entire offensive unit on his back, right? So I think he needs another piece, for him to even see his best. And that's on top of him being injured, right? Like the first step is him just playing a full season or more than 10 games in a season for us to, kind of figure out who he is as a player. So I look at wide receiver. I look at Quentin Johnston. If I look at more wide receivers later on in the draft, I like Cedric Tillman from Tennessee. I like Xavier Hutchinson, another 6'3" guy, right? That ran a 4.5 that can, line up in multiple positions. So I'm looking at these, I guess I don't say bigger body, right? But just, receivers that could potentially play some X that can be down the field, vertical stretch guys, and just do some different things to add another element for whatever the quarterback may be, right? Whoever the quarterback may be, he definitely needs help.
No, 100%. I'm gonna tackle the cornerback situation. Marcus Peters was coming off the ACL and everything, and he's I think 30, maybe 31, and I just don't know if he's gonna price himself out of Baltimore. You have Marlon Humphrey, is it Jalen Armour Davis that they drafted or whatever
Yeah.
last year that was not ready to play out of Alabama, but they played him anyway, and that didn't go well for them. So they need some depth at the cornerback position. And you think about, Wink Martindale's not there anymore, but you look at a Keely Ringo who ran fast, but the rest of his testing was very subpar, right, Keith? And we know that he is a more segmented mover. He's probably better off as a cover 3 zone primary guy, from a primary cover standpoint, but also could play man against the bigger body receivers who are not twitchy, change of direction movers, right? So I think Keely Ringo could be in a good spot there. If Joey Porter was the fall down to whatever pick they have, which will be their first pick if they made the Lamar Jackson trade, him, of course, Devin Witherspoon, right? Like it's a couple different names here at the cornerback position that they could use to bolster this cornerback group to get back to playing in your face, man to man, and really throw off timing, right? Reroute receivers, beat them up at the line of scrimmage, and just play sticky coverage, man. In all facets, just play sticky coverage in the hip pocket and really stressing these offensive weapons because receivers don't like to have to deal with that, Keith. So I think for them is just looking at the cornerback position to get better overall.
Yeah, I agree. And man, you look at this division, right? Deshaun Watson is going to be there for an entire year now.
With
So
Amari Cooper.
yeah, you're gonna have to deal with that. Then what you have Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. You have that situation, and then I think Pittsburgh is gonna take a step offensively, man. This is the first time our listeners will hear me speak on this, but I like Kenny Pickett coming out of the draft, man. I thought he was a good quarterback. I gave him a first round grade, so I'm expecting if they add another weapon to Pittsburgh, I'm expecting them to take another step. So they're gonna have to play coverage on the back end of this defense. So I look at a guy like a Deontay Banks, right? Like go get you a good athlete. The guy ran fast. The film is really good. So I like Deontay Banks. And then your guy, DJ Turner, man, because I think the Baltimore Ravens, their pedigree is getting your face, play man, right? Or even, what would be a good kind of passing the torch? I think would be Marcus Peters passing the torch to Emmanuel Forbes, right? Yeah,
I like that.
very, very good, because Emmanuel Forbes is a very instinctive player, undersized, talks
Ball
trash,
hawk.
really confident, ball hawk, like you said, type of football player. So I think the passing of the torch from Marcus Peters to Emmanuel Forbes, because I love when rookies can get 1 year under a productive veteran, right, to kind of learn how to be a pro. So, man, those are the 3 names at cornerback that kind of stuck out for me. But I agree with you. If Quentin Johnson is not there, don't reach on her. And I hate to say reach, but I wouldn't worry about a Josh Downs, Marvin Mims, any of those guys, because they're good football players. But I don't think that's what this roster needs. This roster needs a big body, dominant, number 1 outside type wide receiver.
No, I completely agree, Keith. It's going to be fascinating to see how this thing plays out for the Baltimore Ravens. And guys, that is our show, just really breaking down the Ravens and this whole conundrum with the non-exclusive franchise tag to Lamar Jackson. My hopes is that they can get this thing solidified and Lamar stays there and they build around him and win a championship, because I'm all for Action Jackson. But as always, guys, we thank y'all for making the Locked On NFL Draft podcast your first listen of the day and today, right? In tomorrow's episode, we're going to be taking a look at the New York Giants signing Daniel Jones. We're going to look at what that means for their draft and their offseason and how to build this roster up. So for Keith Sanchez, you can find him on Twitter at The Talent Code. I'm Damian Parson at DP_NFL. Remember to go to YouTube, subscribe, like, hit the bell notification so you can enjoy all the content, the fire content that we're dropping. Find us on your favorite audio podcasting apps. Subscribe, like, download, share, leave a 5-star review. We appreciate all the love. Come and join us. Come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.